What's up? Welcome back to another video. We're at the roastery, going to be doing a really cool roast today. It's a new coffee from Panama. It's a naturally processed geisha from Savage Coffees. It's from the Chiriqui region, I hope I'm saying that correctly, within Panama. One of the greatest growing regions in the world, very high elevation. It's produced at the minimum 1,700 meters above sea level. And as I mentioned, this is a coffee from Savage Coffees. They're a really widely renowned coffee producer within that region. I believe they have 4 different farms, if I'm not mistaken, and producing some of the highest quality geishas in the world, as well as a couple of other varieties. Just this past year at the World Barista Championships, the top 3 coffees that were used were a Savage coffee. So this is their anthem coffee. They also do is work with surrounding partner farms within that region, so still in the Chiriqui region, and they work with them to sell or to purchase their coffee, and they only purchase coffee that meets their high quality standards. So they have, for example, they have a farm called Finca Deborah, they have Morgan Estate, Iris Estate, and Don Eduardo. So those are the 4 farms that they own there. And Jameson Savage, who is the owner of it, moved his family out there years ago from the States and purchased a lot of land and started growing this phenomenal geisha. And it smells like candy. I always know when I get a really nice green coffee, because if it smells like candy, I know it's going to be good, even before I throw it into the roaster. So we're going to get this in the roaster. We're going to talk about the roasting profile. I have already established the profile for this one. What I'm starting to do now is for my higher end coffees, I'm establishing the profile before I record videos, because it's difficult to talk through the videos as I'm creating that profile, especially for some really, really expensive coffees. I don't want to make a slight mistake, because then it potentially eats into the money that I'm going to make from the roast, and potentially the quality of the roast won't be as good. So I already established a profile. I'll walk you through it. I'll talk to you about how I decided when I'm going to increase the heat and the loft and whatnot, but you'll see behind the scenes. So let's get it in the roaster. Just this morning, I was throwing in Costa Rica, or semi-anaerobic Costa Rica, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but I had a different container that I usually throw everything in. It works really well. I dropped it and it broke into pieces. So we have a new temporary one. I have a new one on order, but a replacement on order. But it worked on my last roast for the Colombian geisha that we threw in. So hopefully this one goes well. This is 2 pounds natural geisha from Panama going in. We're shooting for just a little bit of the nerd numbers here, around 12% weight loss. This is going to be on the lighter side. Really shooting for under 10-minute roast time total. I think our last 2 roasts have been around between 9:15 and 9:45. So we're going to shoot between there again. Last one was at 9:30, so we're going to go for that. But leave this in, started in a little bit of a higher temp than usual, so we're going to start it at 4.5, leave the loft pretty high, and go from there. The dispenser worked. Okay, so we're going to leave this in 4.5 heat until 1 minute. At 1 minute, we're going to jump all the way up to 6. With this one, I found that going a little bit hotter earlier on has been better. The bean size is, I would say, average bean size. I think the screen is like a 16, so it's pretty average. And we're going to leave it in heat level 6 until about 4.5 minutes. That's what our other roasts have been. We want to have a lower bean loft in the beginning, usually towards, I would say, about halfway through the roast. That's when we start to let the loft be a little bit more between the bottom of the bed and the top of it. So right now we're pretty low agitation. 3.5 minutes in, we have a lot of the chaff flying off, which is exactly what we want. And it's following in line with the rate of rise that we have on the previous 2 roasts. So far it's looking good. And yellowing is about to begin. We are almost 4 minutes in. And if you're new to our roasts, you'll notice that the roast air temp is a little bit lower compared to other roasters out there. The reason for it is I believe heavily in extending out or drawing out the yellowing process as long as possible. To an extent. I don't want to draw it out for minutes and minutes, but I want to draw it out for as much as I believe is a good development of the inner core of the beans. So we're turning it up at 4.5 minutes to heat level 7, and that will get our roast air temp up to around 490 or so, and that's what we want to leave it in for the remainder of the roast. When you're roasting coffee, if you get too hot, my thought here is that if you get too hot too early on, you're going to cook the outside of the bean, like char the outside of the beans. No matter what degree of level of roast you're going to or how long you roast it for, you're going to cook the outside a lot more than you're going to cook before you cook the inside of the bean. So the yellowing phase is really when things start to happen, and I want to extend that out a little bit. I want to leave it in yellowing phase for at least 1 to 2 minutes. And as it's going through that phase, I think that's really where the key development of the sweetness of it, the really terroir-driven qualities of the coffee show themselves. Okay, and this is where we're 6 minutes and 15 seconds in. This is where I like to create a little bit more of a bean loft, so we'll have a higher distance between the bottom of the bed and the top. And I like to check how that looks here in the disbursement of the beans. It looks pretty good so far. And our roast air temp is at 486, which is in line with where it was in the last roast, so that's great. Around 490, we're going to crank down the heat just a little bit. We want to maintain 490 air temp between at the end we want to be around 495 and 503 to 505. So we're going to turn down the heat knob. And now we're at about 6 3/4 of the heat knob. And we're going to leave it there for about another minute and continue to watch the roast air temp. And if it increases, if it gets to about 500, that's really where we're going to get it back down to around 495. And then we'll leave it there for the remainder of the roast, and it'll increase gradually to around 500 again, and that's when we'll complete the roast. Okay, we have about, I would say, a minute left on this roast. Let's take a look at the color. Yeah, we're about to get into first crack. First crack's going to begin within 30 seconds or so. We're going to get roast air temp down a little bit, so we crank that down. Leave the loft a little higher. It's at 910. First crack is beginning. We're going to leave it in first crack for a little bit. And we'll leave it in first crack for about 25 seconds, I think, here. Get the heat down a little bit. And we're going to pull it. 402. Okay, roast went really well. We're just pulling out some Quakers now. Things look good. And we kept it in first crack for 25 seconds exactly. This should be about a 12% weight loss, which is what we're looking for here, just based on our cuppings that we had. I did have one that was 11.5% weight loss, and I just felt like a little bit more development would do it better. It was running on the line of being a little too earthy for me. Although it had some really great floral notes to it, and it was pretty sweet, I just felt a little bit more development was better. So previously, right when first crack began, I pulled it, and maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds into first crack, I think it was. And this time, 25 seconds in, I think it's the best roaster. Looks great. I'll show you a little bit of it. This is the roast. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty even. Not too many Quakers this time around, which is great. Less work for me. But so I'm really excited to start offering this coffee from Savage Coffees. They're a producer that I wanted to work with for quite some time, but I just haven't. I don't know. We just hadn't worked something out, and now I finally had a void to fill in my coffee lineup, so I got quite a few samples from them. Also, these were samples from their 2024 harvest, and we're in 2025, so these were the tail end of what they had. But I'm really excited to work with them some more in their 2025 harvest, which is ongoing at this moment. I've been seeing all their posts about it. So I'll be getting in some samples probably within the next couple of months, see how that goes. Hopefully they're going to the Specialty Coffee Expo and I'll be there, meet with them in person. But really excited about this one. It's a sweet, not too sweet, floral, but not too floral. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a really great coffee that I'm excited as part of our lineup. I'm excited to finally work with Savage Coffees as well. So if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing if you're not already. Like it, give a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. I promise the repeat viewers that I will give you more of the data behind the scenes of all my roasts, but for now, hope you enjoyed this and watching how we're continuously moving all of the heat and loft knobs. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace.